بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. I would like to welcome you all my students in a new class today. Today we're going to have a reading, and as you can see from the picture, it is indicative that what? What do you think this reading is going to be about? You are right there, well done. It's about the DNA and the testing of DNA disorders, peeking into our medical future. Okay, we've got some recordings that we're going to listen to, and we're going to ask and answer some questions later on. So here we go.
Pages 88 and 89. 8. Reading. Peeking into our medical future. Did you know that a drop of your blood can predict diseases you may develop in the future? This is possible through genetic testing. Testing that analyzes the genetic information found in the cells of your body. Each cell contains a sample of DNA. The information in DNA can help determine a person's risk of developing certain diseases years from now. The most common type of genetic testing is called newborn screening. The goal of newborn screening is to identify treatable genetic disorders in newborn babies. In many countries, infants are screened in the hospital shortly after they are born. Although it is rare to find that a baby has a genetic disorder, those that do have a disorder start receiving treatment right away. This early diagnosis and treatment prevents physical and mental problems, and sometimes even death.
Alright, what does each cell contain? What does each cell of our body contain? It contains a sample of our DNA. Well done. Another question. What is one of the most common type of genetic testing is called? What is one of the most common type of genetic testing called? It is called newborn screening. Another question. How does newborn screening help? It helps identify treatable genetic disorders in newborn babies. So this early diagnosis and treatment prevents physical and mental problems, and sometimes even death. It seems that it is very important. Newborn screening. Carry on.
Death. Another type of genetic testing is called predictive gene testing. This is used to predict an adult's risk of developing certain diseases later in life. People who undergo this type of genetic testing are usually from a family in which many members have had a particular inherited disease, like certain cancers or Alzheimer's disease. There are many obvious benefits to this kind of testing. A negative test, a test that says a person is not likely to develop a disorder, can bring a tremendous sense of relief. Jen Thompson, who recently underwent predictive gene testing for colon cancer, explains, "So many people in my family died of colon cancer. I worried constantly. When the test came back negative, I felt as if someone had lifted an enormous weight off my shoulders." A positive test has benefits as well. It warns of the need for preventative care, like frequent checkups, dietary changes, medicines, or even the option of surgically removing the part likely to develop the disease. For example, if Thompson's test had been positive, she might have chosen to have her colon removed.
All
There-
right. So what is another form of testing being described here in this part of the recording? It is the predictive gene testing. Okay. Now, how many types of these testings are there? According to the results, of course. There is a negative test and a positive test. How does negative test help us? A negative test helps us have a relief, a tremendous sense of relief that we are not going to have any of the disorders. And as far as a positive test is concerned, it just gives us an insight on how to live safely, on how dietary changes should we follow, how much medicines or what kind of medicines should we take, so that we can prevent ourselves from getting worse with the symptoms of a particular disease that is potentially happening to us in the future. All right. So this kind of gene testing, the predictive testing, is okay in two ways, as we've just said. Now let's carry on with this paragraph and carefully follow in the books.
There are also some controversial downsides to genetic testing. The value of genetic testing is particularly questionable when testing for a disease that is untreatable. For example, Alzheimer's disease runs in An Lee's family. An has decided to get genetic testing to see if she is likely to develop it. But her husband Bao is not happy about her choice. Bao explains, if the result is positive, how will it help to know that she will probably develop the disease?
All right. Now, what controversial downsides are there to genetic testing? Wonderful. It is when we test genes for diseases that are untreatable. Now, how can we benefit when we discover that we've got an untreatable disease? Doesn't it increase our agony? Doesn't it increase our suffering? I'd rather not know about that disease and live my life without worries and anticipations of worse situations. Okay. Let's carry on with the last part of the recording.
Result is positive. How will it help to know that she will probably develop the disease? If I had the Alzheimer's gene, I wouldn't want to know. Another issue is that even if someone tests positively for a disease, it doesn't mean that they will definitely develop the disease. So a person could spend years worrying about something that never ends up happening. Genetic testing has the potential to impact millions of lives in the future. Many are excited about the future of genetics, while others have deep concerns about it. But for better or for worse, soon we may all have the ability to peek into our medical future.
All right, what glimpse of hope does this last paragraph present? Well, my students, it presents the fact that it is not necessarily that those who have positive testing for some diseases, that they will have those diseases in the future. Even though the results of the predictive testing are positive, this is not the inevitably sure that they are going to have the disease. But by hook or by crook, science is never stopping, and people are still peeking into the medical future of human beings. Well done, brothers. Now let's move to an exercise. To get a sample, we need to decide whether these sentences are true or false. To get a sample of DNA, doctors must draw a large quantity of blood. Do you agree on that sentence? You are right there, it's false. Because if you refer to the text in the first paragraph, one drop of your blood can tell us of the potential problems we are going to have in the future. Number two, newborn screening is not a common type of genetic testing. This is also false, because it's one of the most common types of testing. Now, predictive gene testing can be done for treatable and untreatable disorders. Yes, it can. This is true. A positive test generally brings great relief to the test taker. Does it? A negative test instead. So this is false. And number 5, the last one. If someone tests positively for a disease, they will definitely develop the disease. Now this is controversial to what the last part of the listening and the reading suggests. This is not inevitable. It's not inevitable that if the test gives you the positive potential for having the disease in the future, that you must have it. So here are the answers. And this brings us to the end of our class today. Thank you very much. Don't forget to go to the school website and do the homework. Thank you and have a nice time.